Tips and Strategies for Managing the Art Room by Michelle McCain. Smooth days start with you. Are you ready to become a management master in your art room? Of course you are. Let's begin with some key points. An organized, consistent classroom management plan is essential to a smooth running art room. Consistency is key. It is beneficial for you to maintain your composure, use a calm tone, and monitor the volume, frequency, and pace of your voice. Again, consistency is a theme throughout. Your strong management plan should be put into place on the first day of class, so start thinking about your routines, rules, consequences, and the organization of your classroom. Organization is essential. You want your students to have accessibility to art supplies, so establish an art supply area. You can give each table a number, a color, or a name. You can use containers to keep your supplies together. Each table can either have a folder that they keep their work in or individual portfolios for students to stay organized, numbering supplies for accountability, and labeling everything. To have students get to know the layout of the room and where materials are kept, consider doing a scavenger hunt on the first day of class. Here's my example. On the scavenger hunt, they work as a table to find the 16 different items. They can start with finding the markers, maybe the watercolor paint next, having a thumbprint of tempera paint, and so on. They really enjoy working together as a table to accomplish this task on the first day. Next, let's talk about establishing routines, rules, and consequences in the art room. Routines should begin on the first day of school. They should be modeled by the teacher and remain consistent all throughout the marking period, semester, or year, and be revisited when necessary. Rules should be simple and easy to remember. You should have 3 to 5 rules to cover any possible misbehavior. The 4 rules that I use in the middle school art room are to be on time, come prepared, raise your hand and listen, and be kind and respectful. On the first day of class, we talk about these 4 rules, what they mean, and I also model them so that students know the expectations for my room. Consequences are similar to rules, as they should be simple and easy to remember. There should be 3 to 5 to cover any possible misbehavior. They should also be sequential. So maybe start with a warning, maybe a seat change. Last out is when I keep a student after class to have a private conversation with them. You can move to lunch detention after that, and then parent contact or even an administrative write-up depending on the offense. Both the rules and the consequences should be posted somewhere in the room so that the teacher or the students can refer back at any time. There are 3 parts to each class: the arrival, transitions, and dismissal. Let's start with the arrival. Tip number 1 is to have the students line up outside of your art room door. The decide first method happens while they're lined up outside your door. You're going to take a moment to find a quiet space. Give yourself time to close your eyes and take a few deep breaths before greeting that class. Nothing will ruin your day. Namaste. Tip number 2 is to meet the class at the door. Make sure you're smiling and greet each student. Say their name to build a personal relationship. Building relationships with students is important. And a lot of times in art class, it's easy because they integrate those personal connections into their artwork, their interests, and things that they do outside of school. But other things you can do is spend one-on-one time with students, either during homeroom or lunch. Look for something to comment on, like, "Hey Billy, those are really great shoes." Develop an interest in their interests. Share your stories, have a sense of humor, and attend student events outside of school. Tip number 3, establish arrival routines. Students can come in and grab their individual portfolios or table folders. You can also begin the class with a bell ringer or daily drawing prompt so you have time to take attendance. A bell ringer could look something like this one that I've done with my students. Draw a crowded elevator with excited beachgoers. They can use the first 5 to 10 minutes of each day to work on this drawing, and at the end of the week, hand it in. The preview strategy. This strategy is your first opportunity to really sell your lesson. I often show an example or examples of what we'll be doing. This preview strategy gets the students excited to learn and excited to participate in the activity. And it's also important that they learn why it's worth learning about. Tip number 4, while giving instructions, speak calmly, clearly, and slowly. Use the phrase "in a moment" so that the students know that they're not getting up just yet to start working. Model everything. When ready to transition into the activity, say "go" or "now go for it." Step back and observe as the students get started on their work. This is an opportunity for you to make sure everyone knows what they are doing by simply observing. Transitions. We are now transitioning into studio time. Tip number 1 is to have a routine for distributing materials. You could have table leaders or assign students various materials to retrieve, and even number seats if you need to. So you could say, "Number 1s, please go get a basket of crayons," or have the materials already out on the tables when the students arrive. Noise level strategies. We have a few here. You can cut out the letters ART. The first warning, you would take away the A. Second warning, take away the R. And third offense, you would take away the T, which means no more talking. Using a traffic light is another visual strategy. Red means no talking, yellow is a whisper, and green is conversation. You could also post numbers on the board, 0, 1 through 3, meaning no talking, whispering, conversation, and have fun. Tip number 3 in transitions focuses on timeliness. You want to make sure you're giving verbal warnings, or you can even set a timer so that the class can see it. Attention getters. You want to make sure you're establishing a routine that gets your class's attention. You could use sounds such as a bell or timer. You could do environmental, like turning out the lights, or use a cool saying like, "Teacher says 1, 2, 3, look at me," and students repeat back 1, 2, look at you. Cleanup can be one of our biggest headaches, so let's make sure our expectations are clear. We want to model the procedures, whether it's swiping dust crumbs into our hands off the table or even wringing out a sponge. You can assign jobs, and you can list jobs on the board. Now is a really good time to stand back and observe and make sure everyone is doing what they're supposed to be doing. I also have a rule that there's no hand washing until you're completely cleaned up. This is a visual I use on my board so that these 3 students know that they have jobs that day. Dismissal. Tip number 1 is to number items to reassure they have been returned, especially things like X-Acto knives and Sharpie markers. Tip number 2, have students return to their seats when they're done cleaning and completing any assigned jobs. And most importantly, help a friend. Tip number 3 is most important. The teacher should check the table and the floor of each table and have them fix anything not done correctly, and also make sure the assigned jobs were successfully completed. Now that the room looks good, it's time to dismiss. Just remember that the teacher dismisses, not the bell. You can dismiss by table or have the helpers line up first, or make it fun. You could say anyone with a primary colored shirt on can line up first. Takeaways. These are all the key concepts that we went over today. And the most important thing is that you remain consistent with all of these concepts. Consistency is key to a smooth running art room. As the teacher, you have the key to unlock success. Every day is a new day. You've got this because you are a management master.